Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is I am, the one and only, Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you guys should probably already know me at this point in time. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom version, as we're still currently playing for that particular version for right now, while the Nintendo Switch remake, it will be on its way now. So, last time, we've essentially managed able to continue our progressioning for the sake of the Forms of Gate Factory to battle some more enemies, in addition to more boss battles here and there. And on top of that is about the fact that we did somehow reach level 25 for the likes of not only for Mario, but same applies with Mello as well. I don't think it's possible we can able to make it to level 25 for the rest of the other characters, like Bowser, Geno, and Princess Toadstool, but I think that'll be okay for my part. So today, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the grand finale of our Let's Play of Super Mario RPG, and because of that, we are now approaching into the grand finale, which not only because of how the fact that we might able to come across into ourselves the final boss of the game, but something tells me is about the fact that we might able to actually stumble across into ourselves the 7th and possibly the final star piece in the entire game. So either way though, I think everything else should be all pretty swell as far as the actual team setup as far as this is concerned, and especially noticeable because not only do we somehow manage to decide to bring Princess Toadstool into the entire battle, but also Geno as well, just to make things a little bit more suitable for him. So either way though, and let's just go ahead and activate this particular switch. But again, if you activate that particular switch, once you jump on it though, there's no turning back. So because of that though, you'll be forced to able to go into this autopilot sequence for this particular claw machine right there. And as a result, we do need to able to actually get to that pipe somehow. So I wonder who's responsible for able to actually keep on making not only tons of enemies for like machine-made counterparts of themselves. And straight to the point, we've now dived right into this pipe, and sure enough, it looks like we stumbled across into the big man himself, which appears to be buddy forms of none other than Smithy himself. In addition to that though, something tells me it's about the fact that he's the only one who managed able to got the 7th and the final star piece, which as it turns out, it was actually yellow. So yeah, I was corrected all along, especially concerning about the particular point that you know what I'm saying about the fact that he was responsible for able to actually cause all this little havoc when it comes to likely setting some more enemies, and especially noticeable for certain bosses every once in a while. But as a result, we can finally able to take him on once and for all, and exponentially we can able to get ourselves the forms of the 7th and final star piece as well. So even that note, that's all I can really think about this for the sake of time. So it looks like that everyone else is gathered around to able to actually just get a massive conversation about the forms of Smithy himself. And even then though, he seems about the fact that he might be kind of threatening though, especially because concerning it that he actually got himself this particular hammer thingy right there. Even though he does manage to able to do a demonstration from earlier that he did somehow manage to create the replicas for certain enemies by machine-made counterparts of certain enemies. So even then though, that must have been said something, I guess. So anywho though, and I suppose, in terms of the forms of this particular boss fight coming up, or should I say, the final boss of the game, that I think this is where the point about the fact that much like any other final bosses during that time, basically I don't think we can probably able to get ourselves some more experience points because, well, we're basically done grinding all of those experience points. So here we go folks, on to the final boss of the game, known as Smithy himself. And right off the bat, that sledgehammer deals some bit of damage right there. So yeah, when it comes to Smithy himself, he does only have 2000 HP, so as a result about the fact that that's as far as I can say about it. But it does not give you any experience points or coins at all, and that could be also applied to any other like certain enemies as well, likely also because of how the fact that, you know, we're now onto the finale portion of the game. So in addition to that, there's also this particular golden thingy right there on the left, which appears to be known as Smelter. Smelter does have 1500 HP, and that's about it basically, because I'm pretty sure, I don't know exactly what this thing does that to us, But, luckily though, since we can able to actually utilize items in this particular battle, so that means about the fact that we can deal with some good amount of damage by keep on utilizing the forms of rock candies, and as a result, that's what rock candies does. That basically activates something more accurately like a meteor shower or something like that. Oh jeez, that attack right there is overly powerful. And luckily with Princess Toadstool that she's already got the lazy shell equipped, so that means she'll be fully protected by that. So even then though, that makes it a prime example that much like the forms of how it does it on Kulex, that obviously about the fact that it's best to know to able to actually just to bring Princess Toadstool into the battle, and especially noticeable we can also manage to able to bring Geno into this battle because obviously that's his, probably it might be a perfect suitable thing to able to actually have Geno in this fight, because obviously something will happen once we're able to actually get ourselves the 7th and the final star piece. So oh, he did actually summons the actual gooey thing, and Smithy just uses this hammer to able to actually create one of those enemies. So as a result, that it appears to be kind of like a similar thing as the forms of how it does it for Shyster, except this time it does have a different name, which appears to be Shyper. Shyper does have only 400 HP, and that's about it basically. So even then though, chances are though, you should probably be able to actually easily take him down, once you're assuming of course about the fact that if you do manage to save up your you know, rock candies and stuff like that. And of course, if you do manage to able to equip the lazy shell for Mario as a weapon, then you should obviously able to actually deal with the massive amount of damage for certain stuff like this. So everything else will become to expect at that point. So, oh jeez, why does he keep on summoning this? I mean, truth be told, that he deals so much damage for certain occasions, but even then though, I suppose we're most able to take down Smelter first, so just in case he doesn't go ahead and just respawn all of that particular Shyper, or Shyper, whatever you want to be more specific. I know for a fact it has been about a couple of hours ago since I actually have last played this. I mean, straight to the point about the fact that that's as far as I can usually just try to able to show you guys in terms of the forms of certain extras of how this game actually has to offer, and especially noticeable with the forms of certain descriptions for certain bosses and enemies. And I believe Smelter is somehow taken down, so now we can able to actually focusing on Smithy himself. So, but either way though, sometimes it might take a bit while to able to actually take him down, but regardless of such though, once you pretty much guarantee we were able to actually just become overpowered against him, obviously we should be able to take him down no problem whatsoever, even though sometimes his attacks might be felt a little bit more powerful, and on top of all that stuff though, there's no way we can able to actually defend ourselves sometimes when it comes to the forms of certain attacks, like the sledgehammer, and especially noticeable with the forms of that meteor shower attack that he did somehow pull off for about twice or something. So, but either way though, that's what I can really think about it. Oh jeez. But hopefully he's almost down, so even then now hopefully we would, yep, he's pretty much down. That's what I was thinking about it anyway. Well, as it turns out is about the fact that I'm pretty sure the entire battle is not exactly over yet though. But that's just mainly because it looks like certain companions for him did somehow manage to able to brought over, and as a result they're about to like, oh, there's Shyster right there. Although mind you about the fact that I'm pretty sure they're trying to able to gather around Smithy as a result, and it seems about the fact that I'm pretty sure that Smithy is just about had enough. Oh jeez. I bet something tells me it's about the fact that, yeah, the game itself is not exactly over yet, or potentially speaking, the entire battle is not over yet, because it looks like we're about to fall down from the below, and as it turns out, we ended up in hell. Jeez. And now Smithy is incredibly mad, but as it turns out, he's probably going to be put up himself the ultimate form for himself, which not only though brings us to one form, but multiple forms at the same time. Although, relatively speaking, that was about the fact that I considered that Smithy, the first encounter with Smithy is considered to be the first form, but now he's going to turn into his true form, that basically though, what in the world? he looks disturbingly creepy off of the way he looks, like with his bulky head, and on top of that, he's a lot more aggressive. So here we go, folks. Here's the forms of the second form of the forms of Smithy himself. And as far as I'm aware, out of all the actual boss battles in the entire game, this boss does have a lot, I mean a lot of HP, although it does have two different parts that you can able to actually attack with, like either his head or the body. I believe the body does have 1000 HP, and as far as his head goes, my god, you never believe how much HP does this guy have. 8000 HP. So combined with the forms of 1000 HP, making a grand total of 9000. Like, I mean seriously, whoever thought that particular boss battle was like, Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his HP level? It's over 9000! What, 9000? Kind of stuff like that. So, but either way though, oh jeez, I just realized that sometimes, occasionally, he decides able to change his head forms. So, presumably speaking though, it's about the fact that we now stumbled across into ourselves the actual, the tank head, which I'm pretty sure it's going to be most notably for the sake of the forms of offense tactic. And I believe that there's also two other forms which does manage to contain not only the actual, let's just say the actual brick of any sorts, but also with the forms of that particular familiar treasure chest model. But I suppose we're most able to actually just try to take him down, assuming of course about the fact that if we try to able to save up for some items, and especially noticeable just trying to save up some flower points essentially, so just to ensure that we'll deal with massive amounts of damage, and exponentially speaking though, it's about the fact that we can able to actually finish him off for no game overs at all, because even then though, if you do get a game over in this fight though, you have to restart the entire first phase of a fight again, so just keep this in mind. So, assuming of course about the fact that if you don't equip the lazy shell armor for the likes of the forms of Princess Toadstool for instance, then obviously you're about to get wrecked a lot. Like, exponentially, it might actually feel like the exactly similar situation as the forms of Kulex, except the fact that it does manage to take place in the, well, let's just say in a different environment. So, anywho though, so a few things I want to explain for this point today, and that's what appears to be about the fact that today's date, of course, there is the 8th of September today, in some cases in 2023 today. Recently, about the fact that I and Bubbles and Blossom and Mighty, including Blue and Jewel, and Diago and Baya and Kala, are already packed for the likes of the forms of that particular mini holiday break coming up at the forms of the 11th of September. So, as I said before, there will be some uploading schedule breaks for the time being, until whenever we get to the resuming point, until specifically Thursday the 14th of September. So just in case we can able to actually discuss upon something new just came up, and especially noticeable with the forms of certain announcements they somehow brings us something into. Well, when it comes to the forms of Apple event, and especially noticeable just anything else in general. Although, exponentially speaking though, is about the fact that I was expecting about the fact that maybe, just maybe, by that time until specifically until next week, presumably, that we might able to actually get ourselves the next Nintendo Direct at some point in next week. Well, according to the forms of a similar pattern as the forms of how it does it for likely or so for 6 years prior, but I suppose we'll might as well find out during the forms of the later time, so even then though. And also, did you know about the fact that it's been about 1 year ago? Oh, I did not notice there was actually another form right here. I'm not exactly sure what that's supposed to be. But anywho though, did you know it's been about a year ago since when Queen Elizabeth II did recently died for about a year ago? Which I know, it's incredibly sad, especially noticeable because we already got the actual community post of that ever since a year ago. So, but even then though, for those if you want to check out our community tab, then by all means you can able to actually double check on it. So, anywho though, so there's also another example I should probably able to address something from the sake of the forms of today's topic in mind. That's what appears to be about the fact that out of nowhere, we did somehow manage to able to receive not 1, but 4 games have been added for the Nintendo Switch Online subscription for it. Like, I believe there was actually 2 of them for the NES and 1 for the Super Nintendo. and the other one for the Game Boy lineup. And as it turns out, about the fact that one of them is actually based off from a movie tie-in game, which as appears to be by the forms of Quest for Camelot, which obviously that particular film did somehow get a lot of negative reviews during that specific time. And on top of all that stuff though, for what I've looked at the actual gameplay footage of the Game Boy Color game of Quest for Camelot, it does play kind of similar to the Legend of Zelda game. Specifically, the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening and Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, except the fact that, obviously about the fact that it does have continuous scrolling every time whenever you do manage to able to move your character around. And on top of all that stuff though, out of nowhere as well, we did somehow manage to able to receive a yet another Kirby game onto the NSO subscription. And as it turns out, it's a Japanese exclusive, Kirby's Star Stacker for the Super Famicom. So yeah, that does seem pretty cool though, especially noticeable considering that we obviously get a lot of like Kirby stuff recently, which I suppose that's definitely a good thing in my book, especially because, you know, I really enjoy Kirby games so much. So I'm very curious to able to check out Kirby Star Stacker at some point. Well, not now anyway though, because obviously about the fact that since that Tiana, she finally managed able to completely done with the forms of Kirby's Return of Dreamlands Deluxe, as you probably already noticed. So even then we might as well able to take a break on Kirby stuff for a little while, until presumably if we decide able to do some spin-offs and during at some point, and unfortunately Geno dies right there. But hopefully we're able to bring out Princess Toadstool for a comeback special attack, so hopefully we'll try to able to deal with that. But first, let me go ahead and deal with some of these satisfying damage for Mario's Ultra Jump or something like that, and we're able to bring back Geno from comeback. Hopefully my timing should be a little bit more impeccable. And will it work? Not quite. Sometimes you need to be accurate with that particular timing with that particular button press, but I suppose it really doesn't matter too much because it looks like he's almost down anyway, so. But luckily you can able to actually deal with the amount of damage to Smithy for about 100 plus hits, so exponentially you could potentially try to able to finish him off much more faster than ever will be. I will say, the entire battle with Smithy, it sounds pretty awesome. So even then, it's almost like hardcore more than anything. So, but even then, though, as to be expected about the fact that, you know, this is the final battle. So, right, he's almost down. Even though for whatever reason, he keeps on aiming at Geno for some reason. But I suppose it really doesn't matter because somehow we're able to refresh our health and flower points at the same time, just in case we don't necessarily try to run out those flower points, assuming of course if we keep on utilizing the actual, you know, certain special attacks and stuff. So, I was maybe thinking I was able to use that particular, that item right there, so just in case it'll deal some bit of more damage from here. Alright, let's go and use the lazy shell right onto its head. And we'll just keep on utilizing group hugs, just in case we can able to, like, survive in the entire battle. I was expecting if I was trying to able to bring Bowser or Mallow, but ultimately speaking now, I just prefer going for the ultimate team right here, as you can see on this particular battle right here, which is of course Princess Toadstool and Geno, because obviously that team honestly does manage to rock. At least in my opinion. Especially concerning that obviously we still managed to equip the lazy shell from Princess Toadstool just in case. Even though, except for that particular attack that Smithy tank head did somehow manage to able to perform, then obviously it does give Princess Toadstool some bit of damage. So, oh yeah, and another thing too is about the fact that until tomorrow anyway, the next Splatfest is going to be taking place during the Evolves event Splatoon 3. So even then though, that might be something worth noting for, especially concerning about the particular point that, well, once again you can able to choose between the forms of 3 different catalog, or specifically 3 different teams that you can only choose one, which is of course based off of the forms of the actual mascots for Deep Cut, which are, you know, Big Man, as well as the forms of Fry, and Shiver. So even then though, and that was it. That's the forms of Smithy as the final boss in Super Mario RPG. Again, you don't get experience points for this because I think something tells me is that much like the old school video games these days, that I'm presuming about the fact I don't think you can probably able to actually not only get certain experience points, but also I don't think you can probably able to keep the 7th and the final plot MacGuffin items, which is of course the star piece, as you can probably tell. And there it is, folks. There's the 7th and the final star piece in the entire game. So we're able to hear that particular fanfare music for one final time, and well, the day is saved. We've now got the 7-star piece in the game! And yeah, like I mentioned it before, it's basically a yellow color, so... And we've got every single star pieces in the entire game, folks. And something tells me is about the fact that why is these star pieces decided able to flash so many different colors? I suppose it really doesn't matter, because even then though, our quest is being completed. And the entire journey as well is also been accomplished. So, I wonder why Geno's decided able to actually stand in the center right there. Oh jeez. I get the strong feeling about the fact that with all these 7 star pieces combined, I believe you're pretty much guaranteed to able to turn back into the actual toy himself or something. It might be seems kind of sad to able to let him go. But even then though, because then again, the entire journey is basically just fully accomplished. Even though it's nice to have you, pal, it is even especially noticeable about the fact that you obviously get a lot of references from time to time, not only for the likes of, you know, Mario Luigi Superstar Saga, specifically the Game Boy Advance version, and on top of that with the me fighting suit for the likes of Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U, and as well as on the 3DS, I think so anyway, and recently Ultimate. So, indeed, no wonder why a lot of people keep on requesting that particular Geno as a fighter in Super Smash Bros. But unfortunately though, maybe they're trying to do that for the next one on the next generation of consoles or something. But then again though, it's so difficult to tell at this point. So, but either way though, yeah, that was it folks. That was the end of Super Mario RPG Legend of the 7 Stars. And let me tell you, I had a lot of fun playing this game. Although it does have some bit of frustration parts here and there, I'll admit it though right away. But I suppose I probably should able to get into my final thoughts of the game once we're able to get to the credit sequence, because it seems to be more specifically, not only does Geno just somehow turn into a toy again, but also something tells me is about the fact that the entire XR sword is also going to be completely gone as well. So, but even then though, everything else is restored, including body forms of Bowser's Keep. And obviously about the fact I'm still pretty excited about the fact that the Switch remake of how that particular part's gonna turn out to be, so... I mean, who knows? Because obviously about the fact that we still only got about almost 2 months left until, you know, the Switch remake will be on its way. Although, still, I'm currently busy playing through some other games recently, like, you know, like I said before, it's about the fact that I'm now still going to be going back onto the Tower of Doom for Mario Plus Rapid Sparks of Hope, despite the fact that how tremendously difficult that game, or to be more specifically, how difficult that particular DLC can be for me though, just because of the forms of this archaic experience. Although, personally speaking, I was about the fact that I obviously still enjoy the main game, in addition to the last Spark Hunter, and of course, Rayman in the Phantom Show, because obviously those 2 DLCs, including the main game, are pretty awesome to me, because you can able to explore around a lot of stuff here and there, in addition to the forms of obtaining certain items rather than just wasting a whole bunch of coins to its disposal. And on top of all that stuff, there was just, you know, a lot of fun to be had. So, and I believe, since about the fact that it did show us the entire recap of several of epilogues for the sake of the forms of different characters' perspective, during the forms of those specific start pieces, they did somehow trying to show us something, so... But even then though, yeah, this game is phenomenon, especially concerning about the particular point that a lot of people are very happy about the fact that the Switch remake is now existent, especially because you can now finally able to get a chance to play this particular remake of this good old classic RPG game on the Super Nintendo on a go, even with the forms of brand new graphics and stuff like that, and maybe they'll try to add in some new features that are being added in during the forms of the remake, but then again though, we'll have to wait and find out until presumably if the next Nintendo Direct is going to take place sometime in during the forms of this month, much like the forms of how it does on any other years since 2016 all the way up to 2022. Well, except with the forms of 2020, despite the fact that you do able to get two different types of Nintendo Directs during in 2020, which is of course the Super Mario Bros. 35th Anniversary Direct, and especially noticeable with the Partner Showcase, because obviously that was the year it just managed able to get a lot of Doom from the start. So, at least you probably already know what this is to be expectable to. And here we had the actual credit sequence, where basically, I did not notice Luigi did somehow make his brief cameo appearance, but that usually takes place in the actual parade, so pretty cool might add. Although, I could assure you it might actually continue that until Paper Mario decides to able to use that particular Luigi becomes the parade in the front. Although, except the fact that he does manage to wear a different costume and stuff like that in the process, which, if you ever played Paper Mario before on the Nintendo 64, then you pretty much know exactly what I'm talking about. So, yeah, let's give my final thoughts of Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom version specifically. I will say, this is certainly without a doubt is the most fantastic RPG games I've ever played, even especially noticeable for the first ever Mario RPG game outing. This is fantastic, especially because, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that the story is absolutely interesting, and is actually a lot more entertaining at the same time, mainly due to the forms of this interesting dialogue, and on top of all that stuff though, funny humor, and on top of that, the plot device is pretty surprising, and on top of all that stuff though, at least with Princess Toadstool never gets damsel in distress, unlike any forms of how it does it on any other platforming games during that time. So even then though, at the very least I really enjoy the plot in this game, even for a story as it is. And the gameplay itself is really awesome at the same time as well, although with the forms of the battle system is actually pretty simple and self-explanatory. Although I will admit though right away though, is that platforming is pretty good, don't get me wrong, but I will admit though, during the forms of towards the final portion of the game, that I feel like the isometric platforming can be felt a bit bothersome for me. Although the graphics in this game though, especially for its time, back in 1996, it still holds up very well, although some people seem to say it might look a bit dated in some scenarios, and some people seem to say about the fact that Donkey Kong Country aged a little bit better when it comes to the forms of Silicon graphics computers and stuff like that. But as a result of that kind of stuff though, I still classify for saying that Super Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo version still looks great, even to this day. And the soundtrack, my goodness, the soundtrack is amazing to listen to. My favorite tracks being the forms of, let's just say, the Mushroom Kingdom, alongside with the forms of, let's just say the new forms of the Kulex boss fight, and on top of all that stuff though, there's also let's just say the Forest Maze, because that is the most iconic music of all time, especially concerning about the fact that, gee, they managed to keep on utilizing that particular music a lot during the forms of certain reviews and all that stuff, and I mean, usually I can listen to that all day long. And on top of all that stuff though, with the forms of Melville's track, it does kind of sound, it reminds me of something related to Mario Party-esque kind of music to it, specifically Mario Party 1, but ultimately speaking out about the fact that this is on the Super Nintendo, so it obviously, this game came out 2 years before Mario Party, but I have no idea why I somehow bring that comparison over, so... And also, the controls-wise, well, assuming, of course, if you're pretty much used to with the forms of the modern re-releases, for the likes of the forms of Super Mario RPG, either on the Nintendo Wii or the Wii U, the controls are pretty good for the most part, even though when it comes to utilizing the directional pad, although sometimes though it can be felt a bit stiff in certain scenarios, mainly due to the forms of the final platforming segments here and there. So that's why I honestly do prefer playing the game with the actual analog controller, or specifically with the control stick, because with the forms of the isometric 3D platforming in mind, then obviously it works supernaturally well when it comes to able to utilizing not only with the GameCube controller, but also during the forms of the classic controller as well, and even with the Wii U Pro controller and the Wii U gamepad. So I'm bet about the fact that the Switch remake will able to force us to utilize the control stick for the majority of the forms of 3D platforming from time to time. But even then though, yeah, regardless of everything else though, yeah, I can still able to seem to say you can definitely recommend getting this game. Even though it's a shame about the fact that you can no longer get this game anymore during the forms of it, not only on the Nintendo Wii Virtual Console, but also on the Wii U Virtual Console here and there as well, just because both Wii Shop channel and the Nintendo eShop applications, they are both dead. So as a result, gee, no wonder why that this game never saw light of day on the new 3DS Virtual Console re-release, mainly because the forms of the graphical limitations or something like that, it might be hard to emulate on the actual new 3DS models or anything else to be more specific, but regardless of anything else though, yeah, you can still able to recommend it. Either you can get it on the original cartridge version, for those of you who lived in Japan and North America, except the European countries, which it's kind of unfortunate on my part, because I would love to able to get the physical version of the Super Nintendo version, but regardless of such though, it's not the end of the world. Or, if you do manage to able to try to get this game on the Super Nintendo Classic Mini, because that's obviously going to be included on there, or you must have to wait until the Nintendo Switch remake will be on its way, ensuring specifically in the 17th of November. So, yeah, I love fun playing this game. Sure, it does have some frustrating moments here and there from time to time, most notably with the forms of the platforming, isometric platforming, and on top of all that stuff, though, with a lot of backtracking sometimes. But apart from all that stuff, though, you should probably still recommend getting this game, and I fully enjoy it. Especially noticeable, I cannot wait until I'm able to get my hands on the Nintendo Switch remake of this particular good old classic game. So... And also you can able to hear that familiar Mushroom Kingdom jingle right there, or specifically Vault 1-1 music, during the forms of this The End sequence. And of course, much like any other old school video games these days, obviously we can't skip this sequence, much like the forms of how it does it on Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, and same applies with the forms of Paper Mario for the N64, and same applies with the forms of Super Mario World, and I think that's about it as far as I can usually just think about it. So, but even then though, yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy this particular playthrough, because I surely do, like I said before, and it's been a blast able to actually experience this game for myself. So even then, this is me, Ray the Flying Squirrel, from the likes of the Maxi Toys. I suppose, maybe, let me know in the comments down below if you guys want me to tackle through any other Mario RPG games at some point in the future. It could be either be the Switch remake, or Paper Mario for the N64, or possibly Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. Let me know in the comments down below. So yeah, I'll see you guys at some point soon. Bye!